Lucifer Morningstar. He was born at the top of heaven's hierarchy. One of the three demiurgic archangels, his role was to channel pure willpower into the stars so creation could come alive. From the very beginning, he pushed back against authority, questioning the presence in ways no other angel dared. That defiance grew into a rebellion so massive it shook heaven's walls. The presence crushed the uprising, but instead of erasing him, gave him a kingdom, a realm at the farthest point from God. It would evolve into hell. Lucifer ruled there for billions of years. He forged it into a place of punishment, built an army of demons, and even created a ruling triumvirate with Beelzebub and Azazel to handle the daily chaos. But eternity as Hell's warden grew stale. Lucifer wanted freedom, not another cage. So, when Dream of the Endless came knocking, Lucifer dropped the keys in his hand and walked out. Overnight, Hell was no longer his problem. Free on Earth, he set up Lux, a piano bar in Los Angeles, with Mazikeen at his side. Heaven tried to pull him back in by sending messages through angels. One mission pushed him into killing a voiceless god, and in return he forced Heaven to hand him a letter of passage. That single document became the passport to something bigger. Lucifer split creation wide open, building a universe outside God's design. The rule inside his realm was simple: worship no one, not even him. That challenge drew predators. The Basanos, a sentient tarot deck, tried to seize his realm. Amenadiel, an angel who despised Lucifer's rebellion, led armies against him. Each one failed. Lucifer defended his creation, not to rule over it, but to keep it free of chains. Eventually, the cosmic tide shifted again. The presence abandoned creation. Elaine Belloc rose as the new supreme being, and Lucifer's universe merged back with the larger order. Once his work was complete, he walked away from existence itself. No throne, no crown, no rulers. Burden, just the endless void. Exactly the freedom he'd been chasing since the day he left heaven. Elaine Belloc. Her story starts far away from the halls of heaven. Born in London to human parents, she lived what looked like an ordinary life, but her bloodline carried something no mortal should ever inherit. She was the product of Sandalphon's twisted experiments, tied directly to Michael Demiurgos, and destined for far greater things. As a child, she displayed unusual gifts, talking to the dead, glimpsing events from the past, signs that something cosmic was buried inside her. That destiny came crashing into view when the Basanos, a sentient tarot deck forged from angelic fire, targeted her. Disguised demons and collapsing tunnels ripped Elaine from the safety of her world and into Lucifer's realm. For a time, her spirit wandered while Lucifer himself fell to the Basanos. In a critical moment, Melios, one of Lucifer's siblings, pushed Elaine into a choice no mortal should face. She traded her life so that Lucifer could rise again. Her body perished. Her soul was comforted by death of the endless, but her story didn't end there. Lucifer sent allies to retrieve her spirit, and when she returned, he appointed her guardian spirit of his creation. Alongside her friend Mona, she became known as one of the Sisters of Mercy. That role was only the beginning. After Michael's death, his Demiurgic Fire, the primal energy of creation, passed into Elaine. At first, it nearly tore her apart. With Lucifer's guidance, she learned to control it, building an entirely new universe from the ground up. Her creativity shaped reality itself. She even forged a gate across worlds using the letters of her own name as the foundation. Each step carried her further from mortal girl to cosmic architect. By the final battle, her path was set. The presence had departed creation and someone needed to take the throne. Elaine ascended, uniting all three universes into a single order. Her reign marked a new age for existence, one ruled not through fear or silence, but with compassion, clarity, and justice. The presence. In the hierarchy of DC's cosmos, the presence sits at the very top. He's not just the father of Lucifer, Michael, and Gabriel, he's the architect of the entire multiverse. His earliest form appeared in More Fun Comics number 52 back in 1940, presented as the Voice, an unseen power, guiding the Spectre. For decades, he looked like just another deity in DC's lineup, but by the late 1980s, writers cemented him as the one true supreme being. From then on, every angel, endless, and cosmic powerhouse lived in the shadow of his word. That word wasn't metaphorical. In the Lucifer series, it's revealed that the fabric of reality is literally woven from the presence's speech. Every star, every law of nature, every soul, his command holds it together, which is why his decision to step away hit harder than any rebellion. Once he pulled back, creation itself began to fray. Lucifer understood it immediately. If the presence's voice faded, existence would collapse. The presence kept his distance, preferring to communicate through layers of intermediaries. Angels like Remiel would carry his messages, even though they often didn't understand what they were delivering. The most powerful archangels accessed him through the Prima Mobile, a chamber at heaven's core. Others spoke to him through mystical waters, reflections rather than face-to-face encounters. For most of DC's lore, God remained an abstract rumor. That changed in Lucifer number 68. After adopting different forms over time, the presence finally appeared as an old British gentleman in a suit, fedora, and cane. He looked approachable, but the reality was far more unsettling. In one moment, he contemplated erasing everything with a thought. In another, he prepared to hand all of creation to someone else. Eventually, he chose the latter. The divine crown passed to Elaine Belloc, his granddaughter, and the presence bowed out completely. His last scene came in Lucifer number 75, an empty void. One final conversation with his son. After that, he walked away from the very thing he created, leaving gods, angels, and mortals to carry the weight of existence on their own. Michael Demiurgos. He was forged alongside Lucifer as one of the 3 demiurgic archangels, and his role was unlike any other. Where Lucifer supplied the will to shape creation, Michael carried the raw power itself. Inside him burned the Demiurgic Fire, a limitless source of divine energy that could both create life and obliterate everything if it was ever released without control. That power made him a target. A rogue angel named Sandalphon captured Michael in a desperate bid to clone his strength. The plan was grotesque: breed an army of angels using Michael's genetic material. Nearly all of Sandalphon's creations failed, but the danger was real. If Michael's body failed or his fire was unleashed without guidance, the shockwave would erase existence. Lucifer eventually stormed in to free his brother, but even then, Michael's condition remained unstable. The breaking point came inside Lucifer's own creation. Michael, fatally wounded, let the Demiurgic Fire pour out. Lucifer seized that energy and used it to seed life across his new universe, proving once again how inseparable the brothers were. One supplied the power, the other gave it form. Michael's death didn't end the story, though. Before the final moment, he entrusted that fire to his daughter, Elaine Belloc. The transfer ensured creation's survival and set Elaine on her path to godhood. Michael's arc is marked by loyalty and frustration. He defended the presence faithfully, but after God abandoned creation, even Michael began to question everything he had served. The anger boiled over in the last battles of the Lucifer series, when the ancient being Fenrir rose to speed. Up the universe's destruction, Michael threw himself into the fight. Fenrir struck back by possessing Lucifer and turning his own brother's hand against him. Michael fell in combat, but in dying, he gave Elaine the fuel to step into the highest role of all: Gabriel, hornblower. His role was unique. While Michael unleashed divine energy and Lucifer willed it into the stars, Gabriel imposed form and order, shaping the raw chaos into structured reality. On paper, it made him one of the 3 most powerful beings ever created. Yet Gabriel's story is marked by absence. In the Lucifer series, he appears sparingly, his influence quieter than that of his brothers. His real spotlight came in Hellblazer, where his complexity surfaced. Gabriel could perform acts of wonder, lifting humanity with miracles, but he also revealed a streak of cruelty that blurred the line between servant of heaven and tyrant. That dual nature made him vulnerable, and one man knew how to exploit it: John Constantine. Constantine, desperate and dying of cancer, sought Gabriel's help. When the archangel refused, Constantine set a trap. He introduced Gabriel to a demon disguised as a woman and tricked him into sin. The fallout was catastrophic. Heaven stripped Gabriel of his wings and even his heart, exiling him as a fallen angel. For someone who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Lucifer and Michael, the fall was staggering. Gabriel's story didn't end there. After the events of the first Lucifer series, heaven came calling again. They needed someone to hunt down Lucifer Morningstar, and Gabriel was the candidate. The deal was clear: complete the mission, and he could reclaim his place among the angels. It was a desperate attempt at redemption, but it showed how far Gabriel had fallen from his original stature as one of creation's architects. Duma and Remiel. When Lucifer finally turned his back on hell, he didn't leave it empty. The presence stepped in to make sure the realm had new management, and 2 angels got the job: Duma and Remiel. Overnight, the gates of hell were in the hands of beings who were once his peers. Duma was the Angel of Silence, a figure so restrained that centuries could pass without him saying a word. In the comics, his voice carries weight precisely because it is so rare. He was patient, calculating, and his presence in hell gave the place a calm, eerie authority. He became known as the ruler who listened more than he spoke, and when he finally did speak, it meant the ground itself could shift. His partner Remiel was cut from very different cloth. Petty and resentful, he didn't have Duma's quiet authority. Instead, his portrayal showed a mix of insecurity and anger, a stark contrast to the silence beside him. Together, they made for an uneasy balance, one defined by measured stillness, the other by restless bitterness. Despite their assignment, the two were never truly at ease in hell. The job was a burden left behind by Lucifer, a reminder that ruling the damned was less a privilege and more a punishment. Still, they carried it out because the presence demanded it, making them symbols of duty more than ambition. Duma's influence reached further than Remiel's. In the later arcs of Lucifer, Duma even sided with Lucifer's allies during the climactic battle, breaking away from simple obedience and proving that silence doesn't always mean submission. Remiel, meanwhile, remained marked by his resentment, locked in the shadow of both his partner and the Morningstar legacy. Together, they reshaped Hell's image, not as a kingdom of rebellion under Lucifer, but as a territory under Heaven's reluctant stewardship. Their tenure showed how far the divine order would go to keep balance, even if it meant assigning angels to the throne of fire. Amenadiel. Among the angels who stood against Lucifer, none carried a grudge like Amenadiel. From the day of the rebellion, he viewed Lucifer's defiance as a betrayal that scarred Heaven's ranks. That bitterness hardened over time until Amenadiel became one of Lucifer's fiercest rivals in the struggle over creation. When Lucifer forged a path beyond Heaven's design and opened the gate to his own universe, Amenadiel saw it as the ultimate insult. To him, it wasn't just another rebellion, it was open war against the Presence's authority. He moved quickly, mobilizing the armies of Heaven and launching a campaign to destroy what Lucifer was building. His command wasn't symbolic. Amenadiel brought the full military might of angels to the front line, determined to crush his brother's experiment before it could thrive. That clash became one of the defining confrontations of the Lucifer series. Lucifer stood behind his new creation's freedom, while Amenadiel stood behind the will of God. Their conflict wasn't about territory or pride. It was about the very right to create. In the heat of this cosmic battle, Amenadiel's hatred became clear. He wasn't motivated by justice or balance. He wanted to see his brother punished for defying the order of heaven. But his campaign ended in defeat. Despite his armies and his rage, Amenadiel couldn't overcome Lucifer's will or the support his realm drew. Time and again, Lucifer dismantled the threats Amenadiel put forward until the angels' offensive collapsed. That failure defined Amenadiel's legacy in the story. He became a figure of anger and resentment, remembered less for victories and more for the relentless vendetta that consumed him. Sandalphon. Among the Morningstar family, Sandalphon is remembered less as a warrior and more as an experimenter, one whose obsession with creation twisted into horror. He wasn't content to carry out the Presence's design. Instead, he turned his focus toward building his own army, using methods that crossed every boundary Heaven was meant to stand for. His scheme hinged on Michael Demiurgos. Michael carried the Demiurgic Fire, the divine power that could create or destroy reality itself. Capturing him became Sandalphon's priority. Once Michael was in his grasp, Sandalphon tried to harvest his genetic material, attempting to engineer new archangels who carried fragments of that same energy. The results were brutal. Most of his creations failed, twisted offspring that never survived. Only a handful, like Elaine Belloc and Cal, proved viable. Even then, his work brought chaos into the universe. Elaine, born through one of these experiments, would one day ascend as the supreme being. Cal, another creation, lived a life marked by struggle until Elaine restored him at the end. The most infamous of Sandalphon's projects was the Basanos, a living, sentient tarot deck. The Basanos were powerful, unpredictable, and malevolent. They became so dangerous that even Sandalphon couldn't control them, and they eventually turned into one of Lucifer's greatest adversaries. Lucifer himself eventually confronted Sandalphon. After rescuing Michael from his captivity, Lucifer ended the experiments and crushed Sandalphon's plans for a manufactured army. But the damage was already done. His creations had reshaped the future of the cosmos, intertwining with Lucifer's fate in ways no one could ignore. Maleos. He wasn't a warrior, a ruler, or a rebel. His legacy came through creation, and one creation in particular, the Basanos. Unlike weapons or armies, the Basanos were a living tarot deck, a sentient set of cards powered by divine essence. At first, they were art, then they became something much darker. The Basanos developed into a malevolent force, ambitious enough to try and seize entire realms. Their hunger for control eventually turned them into a direct threat to Lucifer himself, attacking his universe in a bid to claim it. They failed, but their impact left scars across every level of existence. The irony was clear. Maleos's greatest act of artistry ended up being one of the most dangerous entities ever unleashed. Even with that shadow hanging over him, Maleos wasn't simply a destructive figure. In one of the key moments of the Lucifer series, he was the one who saved his brother's life. After Lucifer was nearly destroyed in battle with the Basanos, Maleos retrieved his broken body and carried it deep into the mountains. There, he kept him hidden from his enemies, buying time until Lucifer could be restored. Without Maleos's intervention, intervention, the Morningstar story might have ended long before the final confrontation. That duality defines his place in the family. On one side, he created a monster so dangerous it had to be contained. On the other, he stepped in at a critical moment and ensured Lucifer could continue his fight. His role wasn't about glory or command, but about influence. The Basanos alone left a permanent mark on DC's cosmic history, forcing gods and angels to adapt to their presence. Kal, designed to be a new kind of angelic offspring, he inherited fragments of divine power, but his creation came with flaws. He was sterile, burdened with a stutter, and lived in constant dependence on others. To Sandalphon, that made him expendable. To Kal, it meant a life of servitude, carrying out orders without question. Despite those limitations, Kal had a loyalty that couldn't be engineered away. When called upon, he carried out Sandalphon's commands with brutal efficiency, even though he lacked the strength to face higher beings on equal ground. That obedience eventually put him in Lucifer's path. When Kal tried to fight the Morningstar, the mismatch was immediate. Lucifer ended the confrontation with ease, showing just how far Kal was from the siblings he had been modeled after. What made Kal stand out wasn't his role as Sandalphon's enforcer, but his bond with Elaine Belloc. Despite the torment of his creation, he remained deeply protective of her, a side of him that revealed something more than blind obedience. After Elaine's death during the battle against the Basanos, Kal became part of the mission to rescue her soul. It was a moment that showed his true devotion, stepping into danger not for Sandalphon's schemes but for family. The mission cost him everything. Kal was killed during the attempt to bring Elaine back, another casualty in the chaos left behind by Sandalphon's work. But Elaine's rise to godhood rewrote his ending. Once she ascended to the throne of creation, she chose to honor her brother's sacrifices. With her power, she restored Kal to life, not as an angelic experiment, but as a normal human child. She gave him to a loving family, Matthew and Barbara Bell, ensuring he would finally know peace. Takihiko. His story begins with one of Lucifer's rare liaisons. During a clash with the gods of Japan, the Morningstar briefly entangled with the goddess Izanami. That encounter produced a child, Takihiko. Born of two powerful bloodlines, he inherited a portion of Lucifer's staggering abilities, along with the legacy of Japan's underworld. As he grew, Takihiko became both ambitious and dangerous. Empowered by his divine heritage, he aligned with Izanami, who carried a long-standing grudge against Lucifer. Together, they set their sights on hell. Takihiko entered the stage not as an ally of the Morningstar family, but as a challenger, prepared to wrest control from his father. His rise represented a new kind of threat, not from heaven or rebellious angels, but from Lucifer's own lineage. The confrontation between father and son was inevitable. Takihiko came forward with immense power, but also with a rawness that revealed his inexperience. Lucifer had shaped universes, governed hell for eons, and stared down armies of gods. Takihiko was stepping into an arena far beyond anything he had known. The battle was fierce, but in the end, Lucifer and Mazikeen overpowered him. The rebellion collapsed before it could truly begin. His defeat underscored the weight of legacy in the Morningstar bloodline. Carrying Lucifer's name did not make him equal to the Morningstar himself. His campaign to conquer hell became another chapter in the endless conflicts surrounding its throne, but one with a personal edge, born from vengeance and fractured family ties. And that's it. So after gods walked out, angels rebelled, and a mortal girl rose to the throne, one question lingers over the entire Morningstar legacy. If Elaine now rules all of creation, what happens the day Lucifer decides to come back from the void? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.